Hey, what's up, everybody? Yours truly, back to space, back in the place once again, Mickey Smith Jr. And we're talking about keep on going and what that means in this season. Teaching is different than it's ever been before. Let's just go ahead and face that reality. And for us to think that we can bring completely old strategies into this new paradigm and be completely successful is what I feel like is a misnomer. I don't think it's possible. But the good news is when there's a will, there's a way. And at the end of the day, I don't want to diminish the problems that we face as educators, but I do want to say this. Problems were meant to be recognized, but not committed to. So in this season, I want to challenge everybody that's under the sound of my voice to commit to the solution and not the problem. Commit to the solution. I need you to be a solutionist today. Now, I know for those that may be listening, they're like, Mickey, you don't understand. I'm in this situation. I'm teaching under these circumstances. I'm facing this demographic. I'm facing these deficiencies. I'm facing this dilemma, whatever D word you can think of. I get it. The problems are real. Nobody's saying that the problems aren't real or even substantial. But what I am saying is there's always a solution. And many times our solutions are those things that we've been so busy looking for, we're not seeing. And on top of that, a lot of times it also comes with collaboration. I always like to say, as two go, so two shall they grow. So let me ask you this. Who are you connecting with in this season to help you see what maybe you're overlooking? Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most dangerous things that we do as teachers, and that is we see behavior problems. I want to challenge you today to not see behavior problems, but see problem behaviors. Because when we use the word behavior problems, that we usually connotate that with a specific person. A student, their behavior problem. But I believe at the end of the day that every child is capable, and many are more willing than we think. They just have to know that we have their best interests at heart, and they have to know that we see them. Because why? We can't expect kids to be excited about learning if they first don't know that we're excited about them. This is not to say that we give them carte blanche or that we don't hold them accountable. All I'm saying is I need you to look again for the first time. Today, we're talking about being a behavior detective, being a behavior detective. So watch this. We talked about it earlier about how this journey called the school year is a flight. And let's be honest, there's going to be some turbulence. If you're honest with yourself, we're going to hit turbulence. But even on a regular flight, even knowing that I'm going to hit turbulence doesn't disqualify the flight itself. Even knowing that I'm going to hit turbulence doesn't cause me to say, well, I'm just going to drive the 22 hours. No, I'm going to take the flight, because if I can get there in less time and the only cost is a little bit of turbulence, I'm going to roll the dice and take the turbulence. And I'm telling you this today, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Understand that there's value in this season, even in this unprecedented time, but we have to be value seers, value seekers, and value adders. And that starts with being a behavior detective in our class. Look, they're not going to come perfect. Nobody's perfect, and you don't have to have all the answers, but I want to give you some tools that help you answer the call today. So when we talked about this flight called the school year, I challenged you to break down this journey with the people that are involved with the flight. And we talked about our pilots, we talked about our flight attendants, we talked about our grounds crew, and we talked about our air traffic control. And for those that may have missed that, go back to our previous ones to get caught up on that. But if we're going to break it down into a category, I would say our pilots are those individuals that are a little bit more dominant, right? Think about those dominant personalities in your classrooms, those strong-willed, those direct, those decisive, those determined individuals. Look, you see how I worded that? Yeah, you got to be a master of teacher speak. Sometime in the teacher conference, I'm like, wow, you have a very determined, strong-willed child, right? Now, we know what that means as teachers, but what we also have to realize is that as I use those adjectives of being direct or being decisive or being determined, that really I have to understand that those are just calls or cries for certain needs such as respect, needs such as wants choices, doesn't want to be bossed, wants to be able to make choices, and individuals that seek control. And sometimes if your personalities, okay, if your preferences, if your behavior doesn't gel with that or jive with that, it can cause some frustration, some friction. That's why we talked about doing the DISC assessment, the flight assessment, which again, you have to go to earlier ones. We'll break that down. You can find out more at MickeySmithJr.com. We talked about the flight attendant and how that person is more social, right? They have aspiring and inspiring individuals. They just are the life. They bring the life to the room, right? And when you think about those individuals, they can have an influencing quality over their peers. Hey, sometimes even over the teacher too. I have students that literally, when they walk into the room, they just are a light, and they inspire me, and they make me want to be better, right? These students oftentimes are very social, can be chatty, interactive, right? And sometimes maybe a little bit flighty. We'll say imaginative, right? A squirrel, right? That kind of thing. We talk about our flight attendants. I like to associate these terms on the flight with the roles each plays. Think about that decisive, dominant person I talked about before, that pilot. They're just more concerned about getting from point A to point B. You know, we talk about the flight attendant. They're the people that connect, they collaborate, they make sure we got the peanuts and the pretzels, right? Those people, a lot of times their actions are calling cries for affirmation. Think about that person. Sometimes they're bubbly, they're chipper, they're chapper, but they may be chatty, but really they feed on, they thrive for that affirmation. You know, they want to be liked by their peers. The popularity is important when you talk about students in the classroom. And oftentimes too, these students are ones that thrive off of recognition, right? Sometimes that may even be why they're doing it. But when they get the recognition, it fuels them. They don't shrink from it. They rise to the occasion when given that. And so we got our flight attendant, we got our pilot. I talked about the grounds crew. And just like a grounds crew in the airline industry, you don't really see these people. These are more behind the scenes people. They're more supportive. And that's just what these students are. They can be more supportive. So they are the ones that are probably more steady, right? More stable, right? Maybe even you might even describe them as sweet, right? And I'm saying that may even be I don't want to say teacher's pet, but they may be the teacher's. Look, can I go ahead and say it? Sometimes it's the teacher's favorite on a stressful day. It's that kid that you know is just going to take care of the business, right? That kid that's going to kind of fall into the system, that's going to align with what we need. That student's needs are different than the flight attendant and the air traffic, than the pilot. Theirs are more security. They need the security. They need that stability. They need that approval. They need appreciation. These are things they look for. And as a teacher, my ability to look across my class and see if I'm dealing with pilots, if I'm dealing with flight attendants, grounds crew, that not only helps me to meet their needs, but it also helps me put them in the right roles and positions, right? That pilot probably wants to be in charge of something. That's a great leader. When I'm breaking up into groups, I wouldn't put 4 pilots together. Just be honest with you. That may not, the plane may crash. I'm be honest. I probably wouldn't put 4 flight attendants together. The plane will never take off. I probably wouldn't put 4 grounds crew together. Nothing would really get done because everybody would stand back and wait on somebody else to take the lead. You know, it's kind of knowing who you have and what you have in this room. And we talk about getting from point A to point Z and getting that flight off the ground. You know, you wouldn't be able to do any of it without the last group I call the air traffic control. And these are the students that are probably more conscientious. You might even call them the book nerds, right? You may call them the nerds. You know, I'm not saying they have to be nerdy. I'm just saying those conscientious students, those are the ones that are always thinking. They're calculating, and not in a manipulative, negative connotation, but they're always counting the cost. They're surveying the situation. They're measuring, right? They're very competent. They're contemplative, very thoughtful on things too. Let's think about this, guys. Let's slow down. Let's consider this, right? And their needs, if you have to put their needs out there, those actions are the calling cards for their particular needs, which they're big on values. You know, what's the value of this? You know, like if you can't show them value, they're not taking a move, right? Confirmation, right? They're looking for things that are confirming to what they're thinking because they're very thoughtful. And they're really big on excellence. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it great, guys. You know, a lot of times these students, the air traffic control and the grounds crew, can even be more, not just introspective, but they can also be more introverted as well, right? They're probably not going to be front and center in the life of the party. And I'm telling you that because it's so important to be able to look into your class and know those extroverts, pilots, flight attendants, apart from those introverts, that grounds crew, air traffic control, and know what value each of them brings. You know, it's so important that we study, that we have to be a student of our students. So I don't want to just give you generalities today about those different flight types, but I want to show you and give you some ideas of how you can take those personalities, those, I hate to even say personalities, those behaviors is a better word, those behaviors and those tendencies, and show you how you can not only teach, but reach in this season. So let me break it down to teacher talk. I gave you that flowery description of those individuals, but when we talk about the pilot, let me go ahead and break it down. That's your student, okay? Because I'm talking to teachers, you know, let's say we're in springtime. We're coming up on the end of the year. Maybe your nerves are a little frayed. Maybe your frustration is a little evident. Okay, we want to talk about it right now. That student, we talk about pilot. What are we really saying? We're talking about that student that's probably really blunt, right? That student that may be kind of bullheaded, right? Domineering. That student that comes across maybe impatient, doesn't really follow the directions, like they just running with it, right? They're not really attentive to the details. You're saying page 4 and they've already started, right? They just like, let's go, right? That kind of student. Sometimes that student can seem very belligerent and sometimes even defiant and angry. Okay. Not always. I don't want to tie an emotion to it, but I'll just say defiant, right? And you're like, man, what is happening with this student? It's not so much that they're defiant. They just got an idea in their head already and they're running with it. And to a new teacher or even a teacher of a few years, sometimes this student, especially if there's a bunch of them in the class, it can create a very intimidating situation because these students can sometimes be very headstrong. I call that student the pilot, right? Right. So what I find with students is it's not our job to change them. Our job is to serve the with me. It's to find the with me, the what's in it for me. If you can find the what's in it for me, why am I saying that? Because we serve the what's in it for me generation, the with me generation. If I can find what's in it for them, and if I can serve that need, if I can find that thing, that becomes a driver. So what's the need? What's in it for them? They need to have high control. They need to have a high level. I need to have control. That's what that student needs. So that need is one thing, but the driver is result. They want to have control because they want to get results. And at the end of the day, sometimes the results are what they want. Sometimes the results we'll find if we really sit back and really listen. And if we really see, sometimes we'll find that the results that they want are very much in line with what we want at the end of the day. They want to win. So what are the motivators? Achievement. I want you to think about this. So it's so important that we turn that negative into the solution. The negative is, wow, they're so headstrong. They're so driven. Well, the solution is they're driven. But our goal is to find, what are they driven to? What can we drive them to? So do this for me. If the motivator is achievement, then don't necessarily give them direct orders. If you tell them to do something, that's sometimes exactly what they won't do. Give them the illusion of choice at times. Okay? Because why? Because if you boss them, you're going to lose. But if you help them to make the boss moves, then you win. How do I know this? Because the more I pushed on these students, so to speak, figuratively, the more I push, the more they become angry and stressed. Because at the end of the day, I think many of the pilots' fears is being taken advantage of. So what I want to do is I want to show them the quickest way to point A to point B to point Z to get results. That's the value that they bring too, is that they're quick. They want to get those quick results. They want to get there. And their communication style can be very blunt. I need you not to worry about changing their communication style. I need you to change. I need you to change as a teacher and be quick to adapt. Be quick to adapt. And the thing is this, if we don't recognize what their superpower is and what their strength is, and if we try to continue to change it, then we put them in a position where they feel like they're in conflict. And when a pilot is in conflict, their go-to is to fight. Their go-to is to fight. So somebody said, Mickey, what can we do then? If you're trying to sell what you're doing in the classroom, I need you to sell it from a standpoint that it's new and unique. That is appealing to them. So if you're trying to sell it, say, hey, it's new, it's unique. That's how you win them over. And you have a powerful opportunity when you show them that they have a powerful aura wherever they go. That's the key. You want to show your students the significance they bring. Show that dominant student, hey, you're a leader. You have a power that you bring to the party. You have a significance that you bring to the situation. When students oftentimes are unaware of their superpower, but when we can show them who they are, I call that the networking description. When you can show them who they are in a networking area, that they have a signatureness to them that their other colleagues and peers don't have, then it helps them rise to the occasion. Listen, I need you to understand something. It's about direction with them. It's about showing them that they are the directors. That's why I call them the pilots. Yeah, they're driven. They're goal-oriented. They move quick. They make quick decisions, sometimes bad decisions, but they're directed at the end of the day. And when we can put them in positions where they can be just that, where they can live up to their mantra of just do it, then we help them to win. I want you to imagine that student that's been giving you some challenges because they're so blunt, they're so decisive, they're so direct, they're so, and I want you to look back at them like Nike and see them as that student that just gets it done. Just do it. Just do it. I need you to stop trying to change and start trying to challenge them. Now, your challenge today is look at that student again for the first time. I'm going to come back with a breakdown of our flight attendant. But that's my challenge for you, your homework today. I want you to see that student that's a little bit more domineering, that's a little bit more dominant. I want you to see that student that is that flight attendant. And I want you to understand that their directness, their decisiveness, their determinedness, their dare I say, bullheadedness at times, again, it's just a rally cry. I need you to be a behavior detective and understand that it ain't even about you, teacher. It's really about them and their need for respect, their need for choice, their need for control. And find ways that you can facilitate that in your classroom and you'll get more out of the student. It may seem crazy what I'm saying, but I'm telling you, it works, but it only works if you work it. Hey, find out more on the website, MickeySmithJr.com. We'll be back with more. This is Pilot. We're going to talk about flight attendant. Until next time, Mickey Smith Jr.